Hey guys, tonight we drift back to a time when courage was measured not by age, but by how tightly one could clench an orange. You find yourself in Jai Viet, what later generations will call Vietnam, during the late 13th century, where silk lanterns sway above courtyards, and the air hums faintly with the sound of frogs after rain. The Mongol Empire, the biggest, loudest kid on the global playground, has already stomped its way across half of Asia. And now it eyes this small, stubborn kingdom like a hawk spotting a mouse. And somewhere in this wide shadow stands a boy who's barely old enough to shave. Though, to be fair, most teenagers in history never really got around to that part. You walk with him through the palace courtyard. The boy's name is Tran Quoc Ton. His robe is neat, but not extravagant. The kind of attire that says minor noble, big dreams. In his palm he holds an orange, round, fragrant, impossibly bright against the muted earth tones of court life. It's not just a fruit. It's a fidget spinner of the 13th century. You can almost smell the zest from where you stand. Inside, the royal court hums like a hive of anxious bees. The Mongols have demanded tribute. Again, and Emperor Tran Nan Tong, calm as a monk at dawn, has gathered his nobles to discuss whether to yield or resist. The doors to the council chamber are guarded by men in bronze helmets and quiet frowns. Tran Quoc Ton, eager and trembling, steps forward, heart pounding, ready to offer his voice, his sword, his everything. But the guards cross their spears before him. "You're too young," they say. Those 3 words sting worse than any slap. You can almost feel his breath hitch. He's been training for this moment his whole life. He's studied the legends, the family honor, the rhythm of battle drums echoing down the Tran dynasty's bloodline. But none of it matters. He's still just a boy holding an orange. You linger in the background as he turns away. The voices from inside are muffled but serious. Words like retreat, tribute, invasion. The sound of grown men weighing the fate of a nation. You watch his knuckles whiten around the fruit. There's something both funny and heartbreaking about it. You half expect him to start a food fight with history itself. Outside the chamber, the boy paces beneath a banyan tree. The air smells faintly of resin and salt. The Red River murmurs somewhere beyond the walls. A servant hurries past carrying scrolls, another with wine. Another whispering rumors. The empire feels brittle, like a porcelain vase about to crack. You catch a glimpse of the emperor through a narrow gap in the door, slim, serene, his crown gleaming like the sun reflecting off still water. He speaks in a low voice, and the generals bow their heads. Somewhere inside, decisions are being sealed with words instead of swords. And outside, one boy grinds his teeth. He looks at the orange again. It glows like a captured sunrise in his hand. The fruit had been meant as a polite snack to pass the time, a token of patience. But patience has just been outlawed in his heart. You hear the faintest pop, a soft, wet sound, absurdly small against the weight of what it means. Juice trickles down his wrist. The orange has been crushed. It's a ridiculous image, isn't it? You, standing there, watching a teenager silently squeeze fruit like a stress ball while empires collide. But in that motion, something ancient and fierce stirs. That's the beauty of history. It's rarely dignified when it's happening. Historians still argue whether this moment actually occurred or whether it was embroidered later by storytellers who loved a good symbol. Maybe no orange was harmed at all. Maybe he simply clenched his fists and swore vengeance in the language of youth. But whether literal or not, the story endures because it captures a truth. Humiliation, when mixed with honor, ferments into purpose. As night deepens, the palace torches flicker like restless thoughts. You trail behind him through corridors smelling of incense and damp stone. He moves quickly now, eyes hard, orange forgotten. Servants whisper his name. A few older soldiers nod to him as he passes. They remember their own days of being dismissed by men twice their age. You step outside with him into the quiet garden. Fireflies blink over lotus ponds, and the distant croak of frogs sounds almost like muffled laughter. The moon hangs low, swollen and pale, and there, alone beneath it, Tran Quoc Ton straightens his shoulders. His humiliation transforms, molecule by molecule, into resolve. You can sense the weight of the choice forming in his chest. He could sulk, fade into legend as another noble boy denied glory. Or he could write his own chapter with ink made of sweat and defiance. You already know which option he'll take. You've seen the fire in his eyes. But tonight, he's still a boy, breathing fast, sticky with orange juice and pride. And if you listen closely, beneath the hum of crickets and the soft drip of juice onto stone, you can almost hear the first whisper of rebellion, the beginning of a banner, a vow, a story that will not sleep. The kingdom wakes uneasy. You wake with it, the morning air thick and sour, like damp cloth left too long in a corner. Outside the palace walls, Jai Viet hums with the kind of tension that makes people whisper even when no one's listening. The Mongols are coming again, or at least everyone thinks they are. No one ever really knows with empires that large. They could appear with polite letters one day and burning villages the next. You walk through the capital's winding lanes, Thung Long, where tiled roofs shimmer after rain, and the smell of wood smoke clings to everything. Merchants arrange baskets of lychees and betel leaves, but their eyes keep flicking toward the north. A fisherman mutters about seeing strange sails near the coast. A monk pauses mid-chant to glance at the horizon. Everyone's pretending life is normal. But the silence between words feels like a held breath. At the heart of this unease, the royal court buzzes. Tran Nan Tong, young but sharp, presides over maps that look like riddles. His generals murmur about troop counts and river crossings. Some still believe diplomacy will buy time. Others whisper that time itself has already run out. You find yourself standing at the edge of this war council again, unseen, listening. They talk about Mongol tactics, light cavalry, smoke screens, feigned retreats. They recall how the first invasion years ago nearly swallowed the kingdom whole, before tides and traps saved the day. The older men stroke their beards, as if wisdom might fall out if they do it long enough. Somewhere far from these polished floors, Tran Quoc Ton is still brooding over his orange-shaped humiliation. You can picture him. Staring northward, too, wondering how a boy can fight an empire. But before we get there, the world itself needs context, because you can't appreciate a teenager's fury until you understand the scale of what he's defying. The Mongols, led by Kublai Khan, had built an empire that stretched from the icy plains of Siberia to the hot edges of the Indian Ocean. Historians still argue whether they truly wanted to rule Jai Viet or just punish it for not showing proper respect. Tribute, taxes, obedience, those were the empire's currencies, and Jai Viet's refusal felt like a personal insult to a Khan who didn't take no well. In Thang Long, the court remembers what no cost them the first time: burning granaries, broken villages, and the uneasy peace that followed. You watch as generals point at lines on a map, tracing rivers like veins, planning where to cut and where to flow. Someone mentions Bak Jang River, that old ally of tides and bamboo spikes. Someone else shakes his head. Too soon to talk about rivers and traps. First, they need unity, and that's the one thing they don't quite have. You step outside. The sound of wooden bells and temple gongs ripple across the city like distant thunder. A small boy chases a kite shaped like a carp. Life stubbornly goes on. You pass soldiers polishing their helmets, mothers buying fish, scholars debating in courtyards. The entire kingdom exists in this strange half-dream, living yet waiting for the next headline to arrive on horseback. Somewhere near the edge of town, the teenage noble walks through the same uneasy air. He can feel the tension in the wind, smell the war in the soil. To him, every whispered rumor feels like a call. But he's still officially too young, still excluded from the council, still labeled a spectator in his own era. You can almost hear his inner monologue, equal parts pride, frustration, and teenage melodrama. You smile. History always underestimates the young until it doesn't. There's a rumor that the emperor himself once saw the boy training alone near the palace walls, barefoot, sword gleaming, eyes like lit coals. It's said the emperor paused, amused, and told his attendants, "Even a boy's fire can burn a forest." Historians still argue whether that line ever left his lips, but it fits too well not to believe. As the sun sinks low, you follow a caravan of soldiers heading north to fortify the border. Their armor clinks softly, their horses snort clouds into the cooling air. The capital grows quieter behind you, monks chant, bells ring the evening hour. Somewhere, a woman sings an old lullaby about heroes who rise when no one expects them to. You imagine Tron Quoc Toan hearing that song too, late at night, lying awake under a mosquito net, staring at the rafters. Maybe he wonders if he'll ever earn a verse in a song like that. Maybe he dreams of banners and battlefields, even if he doesn't yet know how heavy those dreams will become. The palace lights fade one by one. The emperor sits in silence, gazing at a candle's slow melt. Advisors speak in cautious tones about alliances, envoys, and grain reserves. And somewhere outside, the boy paces the garden again, planning something the empire doesn't yet see coming. He looks up at the stars, tracing them like old generals trace maps. The air feels electric, like history holding its breath. The Mongols will come. The question isn't if, but when. And you, standing beside this restless teenager, can feel a strange calm forming beneath his impatience, like the stillness before a monsoon. You glance at his hands. No orange this time. Just fists, steady now. You don't know it yet, but the next time he opens them, they'll be holding a banner that could change everything. Morning breaks again, and this time it feels heavier. The palace courtyards are full of nervous chatter. Diplomats arriving, scouts returning, clerks running around with scrolls like worried ants. You stand beside Tron Quoc Ton, who watches all of it with the stillness of a coiled spring. The Emperor's council has been summoned once more. It's a scene of polished armor, whispering nobles, and the distant echo of drums being tested. But there's one thing missing, an invitation for him. He's dressed the part today, robe crisp, sash tied properly, even his hair pinned with care. He's done everything right. You can see it in his eyes. He's convinced that this time they'll let him in. After all, the Mongols are practically at the doorstep again. Surely the court could use every sword, no matter how young the arm behind it. You walk with him toward the great hall, feet whispering across stone. The guards glance at each other as he approaches. One of them sighs quietly, a man caught between duty and sympathy. Then, as if history has no imagination, the same words fall again. "You're too young, my lord." It's not even shouted, just spoken, tiredly, like a rule that no one likes but everyone obeys. You can feel his pride drop a few degrees, like warm tea gone cold. He argues, politely at first, then with more urgency. He talks about honor, about his family's service, about how courage doesn't age like wine. The guards stand silent. Behind them, the wooden doors stay closed. And there it is again, the soft crack in his voice when pride turns into disbelief. You remember the crushed orange from before, the juice glistening on his sleeve. This moment is heavier. The orange was just fruit. This is the entire kingdom telling him he doesn't belong. He turns on his heel before they can see the anger rising behind his calm face. You follow him through the garden, through halls lined with lacquered screens and calligraphy. The palace feels suffocating now, all elegance and no air. Somewhere, a court musician plucks a note on the John Trang that sounds too much like mockery. He finds himself by the lotus pond again. The water is still, reflecting his face back at him. A boy trying very hard to look like a general. He whispers something under his breath. You can't hear it clearly, but you catch the words unite and fight. Historians still argue whether Tran Quoc Toan truly stormed off from that council in rage, or whether his exclusion was more symbolic, exaggerated later by poets. But they agree on what came next. He didn't sulk, he acted. The boy calls his friends together that night. Other minor nobles, cousins, loyal retainers. They gather in a candle-lit room that smells faintly of ink and smoke. The walls tremble slightly with the echo of drums outside. He doesn't shout. His voice is low, steady. "If they won't let us fight under the emperor's banner," he says, "we'll raise one of our own." You can feel the shift in the air. That moment when childish pride becomes something dangerous and magnificent. Outside, the night deepens. Cicadas buzz like static. The city sleeps uneasily, dreaming of horse hooves and arrows. You and the boy sit near the open window, watching the clouds drift. Somewhere beyond them lies the Mongol horde, massive, relentless, impatient. But inside this small chamber, a teenage boy is sketching plans on parchment, his ink strokes firm and certain. He draws a banner first, a simple outline at first, then letters, then the phrase that will outlive him. Fa Quang Jich, Bao Huang An. Destroy the strong enemy, repay the emperor's grace. It's defiance written in calligraphy. You almost laugh softly at the irony. He's technically rebelling to show loyalty. That's the kind of logic only a 14-year-old could invent and somehow make poetic. A servant brings him tea. He doesn't drink it. It cools beside his elbow. He's too busy sketching troop routes, imagining signals, counting how many men he could possibly convince to follow him. "Maybe 100, he murmurs. "Maybe 1,000. His cousin grins nervously. You sit quietly, feeling the weight of youth's impossible certainty. The room is warm. The candle sputters, and for a heartbeat, it feels almost domestic, like kids planning a play in their parents' house. Except this play might decide the fate of kingdoms. A rooster crows before dawn. He finally leans back, ink stains on his fingers, and stares at the banner again. It's not finished, but it's enough. His first real weapon isn't a sword, it's an idea. He rolls the parchment, ties it carefully, and whispers something that sounds suspiciously like a prayer, but not to the gods, to himself. You can't tell whether it's faith or just determination wearing fancy clothes. Then he stands. Outside, the horizon glows faintly pink. You walk with him through empty corridors, past guards asleep at their posts. The palace gate looms ahead. He pauses there for a moment, looking back, not in fear, but in farewell. It's the last time he'll walk these halls as a boy. The next time he returns, if he does, he'll bring an army with him. The guards at the gate don't stop him this time. Maybe they're tired. Maybe they've heard enough whispers to know not to interfere with destiny. He steps into the misty morning, his silhouette merging with the fog. You follow, silent. Somewhere behind you the capital yawns awake, none the wiser. Ahead lies the long road north, the road to rebellion, redemption, and a red banner that will soon flutter against the wind of Mongol horses. And you think, as the dawn unfolds, that history is sometimes built on doors that didn't open.